Yeah, overall, I think I'm just not, for some reason, a huge fan of the Michter's Rise, or at least the Cask Rise. Welcome to Whiskey and SV. I'm your host Sam, and tonight we'll be drinking some Michter's Barrel Strength Rise. Specifically, I'll be trying a sample of this year's release, Barrel B, which is bottled at 110.4 proof, and I got a sample of it from my good friend. Um, I'll be putting that up against last year's release, which is the one I have is Barrel 22B. It's a B barrel again, bottled at 109.6 proof, which is 54.8%. So I think I've told you this before, and I've tried this on the channel before. I'm not a huge fan of the Michter's Barrel Strength Rye. I think it's fine, but um, there's for the price, there's better ryes out there. I think I like ryes that are a little bit bourbon lovers ryes. You know, they're kind of like more sweet confectionery, those types of notes. I think the bourbon, so the Michter's Rise are a little bit more on the vegetal side, the dill side, and I'm not a huge fan of that. But let's try it and let's see. Like people tell me that they really love these, and especially this year's, everyone sings the praise of. So who knows? Maybe this year it's changed in a way that will make me change my mind and think that this is, a special bottle. By the way, these are really hard to come by, and even the MSRP on them is something around, I think now, 120, $130. So not cheap at all. And given that they're not cheap, it's one of those things where you just gotta wonder. You better really like it to kind of purchase it, and especially even at MSRP, but then like especially at secondary prices. I think secondary for these is now probably over 200, which or around 200 at least. And I would say, to me, I don't think it's worth it, but maybe I'm wrong. So um, let's not forget the caps. We'll put number one on the newer one. Make sure it's number one. Yeah. And we'll put number two on the older one. All right. So let's put these together and send them for a spin. Yeah, so as I was saying, I'm not a huge fan of the Michter's barrel strength rye. I actually prefer the 10-year rye, even though the 10-year is lower proof. And usually I prefer higher proof stuff. But I think the 10-year to me is the superior product because it's more flavorful and it's more a bourbon lover's rye versus this, which I felt had more dill notes and more vegetal notes in a way that didn't go the right way for me. Vegetal notes for me, I think, are hit and miss. Sometimes I love it. My beloved Frey Ranch Barrel 938. But sometimes it doesn't work out, even on some of those. Okay, so we'll just take these out and stop the table. And as usual, I will first nose them and give you some notes. Then I'll give you my preference. Then I'll guess which one I think they are. And yeah, then we'll do the reveal and see how I did. All right, so let's start with this first one. Okay, that is actually pretty nice. I don't On the nose, I get like a bourbon lover's rye. It is actually lots of vanilla and caramel, sweet notes, um, confectionery. It's obviously a rye because there is that kind of like slight minty note to it, but it's very inviting nose. Definitely like super nice. That's a really nice nose. Okay, let's try this one. Very similar actually. Little bit more of a mineral note in this one. Yeah, they're both really great actually. Not too much difference between them, to be honest. All right, let's go for the palate. Yeah, this is what I remember. There's there's something about it which I don't love. I mean, I think yeah, I don't know how to describe it. It's basically, it starts promising. There's those like sweet caramel vanilla flavors, but then there's like a little bit of some vegetal note that I don't quite enjoy so much. It is quite mouth coating and viscous, giving a cast strength. Um, it's the mouthfeel and everything is good. It's just like I don't know. There's some profile about it that my palate doesn't love. Um, Let me try one more sip. Yeah, there's quite a lot of oak influence on there as well. There's some mouth parting kind of effects. Um, the I think the thing that Michter's does is their barrel entry proof is much lower than the maximum. The maximum I think is 62.5%, and their entry point is much lower. It's in the 50s, like low 50s, I think. So without dilution, um, they're already not going to be at a very high ABV, and they're going to be much more flavorful. And I think overall, Michter's is one of those brands that is quite flavorful. Even though like I don't necessarily love the profile, I can appreciate that it is very flavorful. Okay, let's try this one. I think I prefer the nose on this one a little bit more. This one has a lot more woody influences on it. I think I slightly prefer this one on the palate as well. It's it seems to, honestly like more less of that like kind of like vegetal note that I don't like, but it's still somewhat there. Yeah, overall, I think I'm just not for some reason a huge fan of the Michter's Ryes, or at least the Cask Ryes. I have to revisit actually um, my 10 year. Actually, let me get. I think even though I'm not a huge fan, I probably if I came across it at MSRP, I would probably buy it just because it's hard to get and it's nice to have something on your shelf where other people would appreciate. But I do want to put it up against this 23B um, 10 year. So this is basically last year's 10 year, right? And let's see what this is like. Actually, I should do a reveal on these. Let's do a reveal. Okay, this one is number 2. So this is the older one, and the newer one is indeed better. I did prefer this to the older one. Yeah, this definitely has more of that vegetal note. This has less of it. So I do prefer this, but it's still there. So let's try the 10 year. Okay, so comparatively, obviously, this comes across as a little bit muted compared to those two because it's significantly less ABV, right? This is like 46.4 compared to 55, so 10 percentage points or 20 proof less. But I really enjoy the nose on this more. Okay, let's try the palate. Interesting. This it doesn't seem like it's just that stuff that's been watered down, right? Obviously, it is not because it's aged more, but it has gone. Um, it's a completely different profile. It's like not even in the same ballpark. It is more. It is kind of vegetal compared to what I remember it, but not in a bad way. It's like I don't know how to explain it. It's just like the vegetalness on this is more enjoyable for me for some reason. Yeah, there's definitely some like minty notes in there. Um, just different types of herbs. I don't know how to describe them. But it's yeah, I really don't know how to describe this. It's just overall more enjoyable. Even though I typically gravitate towards the more uh, concentrated cast strength stuff, but yeah, for some reason I like the 10 year Michter's bourbon rye much better than the cast strength. It's not even comparable. Like the question is though, is this really worth $200? And I would have to say probably not. Um, I think the 10-year-old bourbon, the barrel A from last year was worth $200, but the rye to me is more like maybe like 120, 130. I think the MSRP is on this is 160 plus tax, so we're talking about 180 out the door, right? That's a lot of money for a rye. I think you can have like that a better experience than that, honestly, in some other rides. Some well-aged MGP rides that are really nice, like the Sagamore Rye, AT Rye. That's really amazing. I should do another side by side. I don't remember if I've done a side by side that before. But yeah, so what's the conclusion? My conclusion is overall, probably I think the Michter's barrel strength rye, not really for me, although this year's was much better than last year's. And I would prefer the 10-year, even if you take into account the extra cost. But overall, I think I'm not going to be someone who's going to be buying Michter's every year, I think, unless if they get really good reviews and I get an opportunity to buy them. I think they're just not worth basically even the retail price. The MSRP on these is like basically 170 ish plus tax, so we're talking 190 out the door. And if you want to buy them on secondary, you're paying like 250 plus. For the A barrel, you're paying close to $400. So they're just like I just think it is not worth the cost. Basically, I think you can have better whiskey for that price. Yeah, so that's my thoughts on this. Hope you found that interesting and informative, and I hope to see you in the next episode. Take care and see you next time.